Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us here on NTV at 1. You're still with me, Sandra Twinobdio. Now, like we saw in the earlier report before we went in for the break, Uganda today is joining the rest of the world to mark World Contraception Day. Today's theme centers on reality and trends on teenage pregnancies and STDs among young people in Uganda. Now, according to the statistics in the Health Ministry, 19.4% of girls between the ages of 15 to 19 have had a live birth. 5.4% are pregnant with their first child, and 24.8% of girls in the same age group have started childbearing out of 4,264 young women nationwide. Now, to help us appreciate this and also realize the importance of this day, we do have Faith Chateka, who is the head of communications at Mary Stopes here in Uganda. A very good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Good afternoon, and thank you for hosting me.
World Contraception Day. What exactly are we celebrating today? We are talking about contraceptions, but what exactly happens on this day? Okay,
so this is a day that is set by the Ministry of Health to look back and review the progress that we have made towards use and access of contraceptives in Uganda. So this day, there's a lot of focus on the teenager, because we have been seeing these stories coming up of the increasing number of teenage pregnancies. For example, last year, the Performance Monitoring Action Plan released a report that showed us that adolescents are now more active. They have begun having sex at the age of 16, and they're starting to use contraceptives at the age of 23. So that is there's an 8-year gap from the first time they have sexual intercourse to when they use a contraceptive method. So that means that between that period, they have 2 or 3 children, and therefore they drop out of school. So this affects their potential to get good employment, to earn, and we are seeing that this widens the gender gap within our society. So this year there's been heavy focus on Kalangala, the Sese Islands, and this has been mainly because whereas the average teenage pregnancy rate is at 25, in Kalangala district it's at 50%. So which means we have a higher dropout rate of girls within that district. The celebrations were in Kalangala, and we had a dialogue with young people. They shared with us why there's an increase in teenage pregnancy and what partners can do to address this specific issue.
Now, when you mentioned 16 to 23, my question, my mind really runs to the part where I'm curious to know at what age should the young, sexually active adolescents have access to contraceptives? Is it safe for them to get contraceptives at the age of, say, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and so on? Okay.
So Ministry of Health has put in place a number of policies and frameworks that guide a number of different stakeholders in terms of what is the right information and also when to give it. For example, we have the Adolescent Health Policy and the National Sexual Reproductive Health Policy Guidelines. So these guide implementers and partners in terms of how to introduce the issue to the young person. At a young age, our children, our young girls need to know about body changes. They need to appreciate what's happening in their body and why they are feeling the way they are as they are growing up. You know, as they grow older, we talk about abstinence, we talk about sex. We need to be open with them and discuss the current realities. We have a lot of adolescents within the rural areas. These have dropped out of school. They are teenage mothers. They have 2 or 3 children. And for such young people, our approach has been mainly to educate them about the different family planning methods available so that they are aware about the contraceptive options that they can use as young people.
Usually the question is when they start using contraceptives at a very tender age, say 16, like I earlier mentioned, there is a general myth that it does affect their fertility. Is that correct? Or how can we go about it, just to help us understand it?
Okay, so there are different methods of contraceptives that are available. There are short-term methods, their long-term methods, and then their permanent methods.
Yeah.
So usually when a young person comes for counseling, we're able to take them through all the different methods, and then we zero down on a method that works for them as a young person. So for example, if a woman comes for family planning to marry stops, we'll be able to assess how many children do you have. Do you want to stop? And perhaps she has 7 children and wants to stop having children. And therefore, the recommendation would be more of a permanent method of family planning, as opposed to when a young person comes for family planning and they want to just limit or space the number of children they have, and therefore can use contraceptive like a pill.
For the young ones to have access to contraceptives.
It is safe, yeah.
All right.
It is safe, and it's usually accompanied by age-appropriate messages and understanding the context in which this young person
Just briefly, do you think giving them contraceptives would help reduce the numbers of teenage pregnancies that we're currently seeing in the country at the moment?
Yes, definitely. This would be one of the key solutions to reduce the high number of teenage pregnancies that we see, and would also be able to reap other benefits. For example, would have them longer in school, would have them more educated, and therefore able to gain and earn, and they also take care of their families as when they grow up.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today on NTV at 1. You're still with me, Sandra Twinovdio. Let us now quickly look at a summary of news coming through from across the world.